You're watching LMCC, your community TV.
This weekend I was driving through Indian Hills in Edina, and I looked over and saw a beautiful little retention pond, and it could have been an awful eyesore, but it was almost like a jewel there for the community to enjoy. And when I went on our guest today's website, I saw that this was one of the properties that they had landscaped, among many, many others. Welcome to the Pulse, the show that tunes you into the heartbeat of the Lake Minnetonka community. Today we're at Grays Bay Landing with Rob Langer, and he is from Natural Shoreline Technologies, and we're going to talk about shoreline restoration. Hi Rob, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Rob, I think when a lot of people think about shoreline and how to deal with it, the first thing they think of is installing riprap to control the beating of the waves, and then taking out all the weeds so that you've got a nice green view of the lake.
Right.
Tell me the pluses and minuses of that kind of technology.
Well, I guess with a shoreline, there's a lot of things, especially on a lake like this, on Lake Minnetonka. A lot of boat traffic, a lot of wave action, a lot of energy hitting the shore. So that riprap is basically there just to hold the shore from that wave action. So it has a benefit there to keep the shore from eroding away and that soil from going into the lake. So there's a benefit there. The downside of that is that you're creating a barrier with those rocks from things that live in the water and want to come up on land, things that are on land and that want to go into the water. It also is a barren landscape as far as plant life goes. So some of the options are native plants. Native plants aren't always going to work in every situation. When you have such high energy like you do on Lake Minnetonka, that riprap does help. So you can find a nice balance between that rock, armor of the shoreline and the native plants.
Okay. So here at Grays Bay Landing, I noticed that you've got just some beautiful, beautiful plantings. It's just gorgeous this time of year especially. Can you talk about some of the things you installed here?
Well, here we had a great opportunity here, and we worked with the city of Minnetonka and the Grays Bay people to work on the shoreline. They actually did a project early before we got here. We do all the maintenance for this site for the last 5 years now. But a lot of what we put in here are things right on the shore that are going to act as stabilization. There's no riprap on the shoreline here at all. We used a bioengineering product called a coconut log, and then we planted plants into that. So we didn't have as much wave action on the small bay, so we're able to use a lot of different plants like cordgrass, and there's cup plant in here, and a lot of there's probably 50 different native plant species in here. So but blooming all throughout the season, offering a lot of habitat, offering food source for birds and butterflies. You see all kinds of monarchs and dragonflies and everything here. Wow. So it's a great place. Bees, tons of bees.
And that brings birds, I guess? All that brings birds?
Yeah, and there's nesting habitat in here for ducks and for other animals that that we want to see on the lake.
Okay. So if I were thinking about doing this in my own yard, if I did live on the shoreline, or if I had a friend and I could influence them possibly to go in this direction, what about things like maintenance? What's the issue with maintenance in this kind of setting?
Well, with the natives, there is a misconception that the natives are no maintenance at all.
Right.
But there is maintenance with anything that's worthwhile. So it's going to be a lot less maintenance than you have with like a traditional lawn where you're mowing it every week, fertilizing it, weed killing, all of those things. But here the maintenance over time decreases every year because the plants get established. They're very deep rooted. They take up a fair amount of space, so you don't get a lot of weeds in there. There still is, say 10 hours a year of maintenance, involved. So from a standard, I would say for our service, for a standard shoreline is going to be, $200 to $400 a year for just a standard maintenance.
Wow.
And obviously that depends on the size of the project.
So is it expensive to install?
It is more expensive than sod.
Okay.
It's less expensive than the rock riprap would be. And there's a longer term process to do it than if you were just going to sod. You can have your yard sodded in a day. This process, we can have the project done in a day, but the period of it maturing is usually over a course of a couple of years. And
So maintenance is a bigger issue, but then you've got plants that are drought tolerant, and then and bring in native species.
correct. So the benefits of the native plants are, like you said, drought tolerance to water level. Lake Minnetonka
Right.
this year, highest it's ever been.
Right.
The plants on the shoreline that we would pick for that location will be tolerant of that fluctuation in water. So it can be up for a long time. When they drops back down, those plants will still survive, where the turf grass won't.
Okay.
So deep rooted, like you said, they'll hold the shoreline in. So places where you don't have a huge amount of energy, those deep roots will hold the soil in way better than the couple inches of grass. So.
Okay, so where we are now, we're sort of at the kind of a bottom of a runoff here going to the lake. So I imagine that in wintertime you get salt through here, and you probably have ice issues. How does this kind of landscape deal with that?
The natives, again, with the deep root system and the way their structure is, the ice heaves and things like that, it's not going to stop ice heaves. Nothing's going to stop an ice heave, but it'll flow with it. So we've got projects where the ice has pushed it up and the plants just grow where they are. Sometimes the ice pushes up and drops back down and the plants stay in that same spot. It's not going to stop it from happening. If it shears them off, the plants are so deep in the ground that they'll just pop up again in the following year. We have people that store their docks on top of it all winter long, and they have no problem because all of the energy is down deep into the earth. So if you take your dock off in spring, the plants will still pop up just fine. Runoff, again, the plants are very fibrous, so that runoff isn't going to wash the plants away. So they hold up real well in swales and things like that.
Can we back up? I'm from North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't know what an ice heave is. I can imagine what it is, but maybe you could just tell me a little bit more.
Well, an ice heaves generally happen in midwinter when the ice of the lake is expanding. So as it freezes, water expands when it freezes, and it pushes against the shoreline. So on both sides of the lake, it's pushing into the shoreline, and depending on where the water level is, when it froze, if it's really low, we tend to have more ice heaves, and it pushes a little lower on the shoreline. So that little bit of expansion, you don't see it, but if you put a closed full glass of water in your refrigerator or your freezer, it would bust.
I do know it would happen.
And that's
I've
the same thing that's
before.
happening in the lake, is that ice is expanding and it's pushing against the shore just that little bit, but every time it does, it just pushes that shoreline up just a little bit more.
Outstanding. Okay, well, thank you for explaining
You're
that.
welcome.
So, Rob, tell us a little bit about your business, because I know you have a very big expanse of area that you serve here in the Twin Cities.
Well, we generally serve the 7-county metro area. We go up to St. Cloud on occasion, and out to the St. Croix, and maybe down to like a Rochester area. And we do native restoration, lake shores, rain gardens, prairies. We have a native plant nursery, so we grow 120 different species of native plants, and we're located right in Maple Plain. So we're one of the only local landscapes around, or companies around here that sell native plants. All Minnesota native grown. We use no pesticides or herbicides on our plants, so it's a great place to get any natives that you need.
Great. So, if I decide to just keep my green grass there all the way down to the lake, am I a bad person, or do I need to rip it all out and start installing this kind of landscape immediately?
No, you wouldn't be a bad person. It's
How much difference does this make to water quality is the main question there.
You know, what it is the bigger buffer you can put between your lawn practices and the lake, the better the lake is going to fare. The herbicides and fertilizers and grass clippings and all those things that come with your lawn will be farther away from the lake, and that's just a buffer effect of what we would put in. you don't have to do your whole lawn. You wouldn't have to do everything right down to the lake. You can do sections, just small sections that fit within your, your design and your budget. You're creating a barrier from things like geese coming up on your lawn.
Mm-hmm.
Geese won't go through anything that they can't see over. Generally, about 15-foot buffer is about what we would recommend. So geese won't come through your lawn or onto your lawn. They'll go to your neighbors and then eat their lawn and poop on it.
That's really, really good.
But you're not a bad person. But the more people that do this and create that buffer to the lake, the better the water quality is going to be, and the better, less stuff is going to get in the lake of those I don't know, the grass clippings and nutrients that turn the water green, that the algae feeds on. So the phosphorus that's in your grass clippings and in the fertilizer and in the stuff that you would throw into the lake at that time with your mower, if you go by there, that breaks down and acts as fertilizer for the lake then.
That's great. That's wonderful. So probably one little yard won't make all the difference in the world to water quality, but if more people saw this as a viable and a beautiful option, that couldn't hurt.
It couldn't hurt, no. It's I think if everybody starts doing their part with that, not only water quality, but just aesthetics and just the look and feel of the lake and habitat will increase.
That's great. So let's talk about one more thing here. If I were interested in doing this, I understand that there are resources available, funding and groups maybe that I could connect with.
Right. Here locally in Minnetonka, the city of Minnetonka is a great resource. They offer small grants for people to do work, not only on lake shores, but on rain gardens and prairies and things like that, native stuff. Also, the Minnetonka Creek Watershed District is a great resource. They have people that can come out and talk to you. And also they provide grant funds. I believe they have like a 50% match grant fund. So it's a great resource, and their website's perfect, and they can tell you how to do it on there. But we can also, if you call us, we can also help you walk through that process.
So Rob, I really, really want to thank you for coming out today. It's great being outside and being at Grays Bay Landing and seeing what a beautiful, beautiful park-like setting this is. And thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Beverly. It was great being here.
So now we're going to drive over to Spring Park and we're going to get a wonderful treat. When I was a teenager, I used to love to load my buddies up in my dad's Thunderbird and head out to the local drive-in. I was so excited when I got to Minnesota and found Minnetonka Drive-in. It's the coolest place in Spring Park, maybe the coolest place on the lake, and maybe the coolest place in the whole wide world. They have homemade root beer, they have homemade onion rings. Let's go over and check it out.
Hi, how can I help you?
Hi, I'm here to order. I'd like some onion rings and some root beer. I'll just take everything on the menu.
All right, here's your onion ring.
Well, that was fast, thank you. Okay, now we're gonna find out if they're as good as promised. Oh boy, in a frosty mug, in a frosty mug. Okay.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank
day.
you. So delicious. Wait. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is the place to be. Well, thanks for joining us on The Pulse. Wherever you go, whatever you do, we hope you have an awesome August.